So there's this like really long hallway that you have to walk to get to the other line. And this is
Mm-hmm.
how vivid it was. 4 years ago, I still remember it. Like a long corridor. And in that hallway, on both walls, from the beginning to the end, there were advertisements of plastic surgery. Like these girls that look that certain way, like just staring at me, like because they're staring out into the wall. And I felt halfway through, I actually got dizzy. Like I really got dizzy, and I was a little
Damn.
bit scared. I was scared, and I said, and I started walking really fast, and I wasn't like looking at the walls next to me. And I just got out of there, and I got out, and I thought, oh, that was really weird. Like I was having a very mild like panic attack.
What up, Mime Timers? Oh, baby, good gravy. I hope you guys are all doing good. I have been busy as a motherfucker these days. Sometimes life is just a blur and it's just a struggle to even keep your shit together, but I'm not doing too bad. Welcome to Mime Time, a show where we talk about the Asian diaspora experience and overcoming our identity struggles to become the best versions of ourselves. And as always, got dope episodes of Mime Time heading your way. And for today's episode, we have part two of our awesome conversation with Cheska, Francesca. If you haven't checked out part one already, I suggest that you do so. We talk more about identity and how we've come to acceptance of who we are in our journey here in Korea, coming back to the motherland and whatnot. And for today's episode, we talk about this and that. We talk about her writing empowering ass women's stories. We talk about the challenges for the modern woman, like body image issues and how media advertising affects us. And, like what is the right way for a woman to live her life or for any person? Should they focus on their career? Should they focus on starting a family? But in the end, we just talk about the importance of asking yourself the question, who am I? Because even if you don't get the answer and you arguably never will, just the process of asking the question, who am I? It leads you in the direction of becoming the person that you want to be. So, without further ado, please enjoy today's episode. And if you have any feedback, please let me know. Hit me up on Instagram at MimeTime or mail me at mime@mimetime.com. And if you enjoy the episode, if there's someone you know that would really get something out of it, then please share it with them. That would mean the fucking world to me. You know what time it is? It's Mime Time.
So I'm currently of all the career paths that have took me so far, um, I've definitely had a passion for communicating with people, much like you might. But I started as an interpreter, so I got to interview and talk to a lot of people in various positions and a career path, and even the general public. And that's why we started. Oh, I started with the team Cheska. It's sort of it's interesting. I think this kind of goes back to everything that we talked about, but the kind of cultural background that I had and the way that I saw things and the way that I saw the society, I've always realized we live in a very complicated generation, especially for women. Like things have vastly improved. I mean, we look at the past where they didn't even have suffrage rights and getting married by choice. But we've improved. But now we live in a generation where our mothers and grandmothers, have endured it all, quote unquote. They stuck with a marriage that was malfunctioning for their children, or they, didn't say the things that they wanted to. And now we are born in a generation where women are preaching the independence, right? You can be self-sufficient. You don't need a man. But then you flip to the next channel and there's like a Victoria's Secret model with a size zero showing, oh, you can be beautiful, embrace yourself, your inner beauty. And then if you're a normal girl sitting in a room watching all this, because now we now live in an era where we're constantly bombarded with phones and images. Like, what are you supposed to pick? Like which side or which message is the quote unquote right way? And that sort of got me thinking about this is such a complicated generation for a lot of young girls and for women. And I have a lot of conversation with my own friends, and we all seem to be very confused. Like we say one thing and then we say the other thing, and we don't even realize it. We don't. We feel like we're trying to find a path, but we're all. So when I got this job as a brand consultant for one of the luxury jewelry brand, Didier Dubois, which is a Korean company, they wanted to do a global launch and they wanted to create a brand message and, like a .com style brand. So I said, well, you know what? Then let me take this. You use this opportunity for their benefit and for mine to create like a .com style magazine and editorial where we would cover a series of real women's life struggles, dreams, destiny, and in their insecurity. Actually, for me, the last one is the most important one because the women that I'm covering, some are really successful in the societal view. Some may not be as successful as some people might think. But what they all would have in common, because the series is just started, what they would all have in common is that they are people who are overcoming their own insecurities and struggles. So that's what I wanted to focus on. Not to give people this is the great way to live, but give them different accounts of many, many different women so they can see, oh, okay, this is one way to live. This is one way to live. This is one way to find direction. Because the more choices and the more quote unquote answers that you can see in life, you can say, oh, okay, the decisions that I'm making is right. It's for me. And that's sort of what I wanted to provide through the .com magazine or the platform by Women's Story. So as you know, I made the cheeky name called Her Story instead of History. So
Oh, I see what you did there.
yeah. So yes, that is what I'm in charge of right now. That's the creative directing part that I'm doing. And I can tell you mine, I'm very, very grateful and excited.
Yeah, that sounds very rewarding. What's been the most rewarding thing about it?
Just being able to talk to women that I wanted to talk to. I know because when you have a platform like that and you are the interviewer or the editor, you can contact these people and say, "Yeah, I would like to. I would love to interview you for this. Could you share a couple of your time for coffee?" And they're more likely to come and talk to you if you rather than if you just approach them, right? Saying, "Oh, hi, I'm Francesca. A big fan of yours. May I please?" So the most rewarding part is obviously being able to actually sit down and talk to these people. But I think the most amazing part is, and I hope this happens as we go forward, but I would love to see other girls and other women relate to the stories that we cover. I think that would be the most rewarding part. Yeah. It hasn't happened yet because we haven't launched the series yet, but that's what I'm looking forward to. And I'm putting the story that I would want to listen and I would want to hear. That would help me. I wouldn't put something out just because it can create noise or it can get traction. I want to put a story that my integrity can vouch for. So hopefully I'm hoping that would resonate with a lot of other girls and women as well. And of course, men too.
That's awesome. That's why I have a podcast because I want to talk to people that maybe it would be harder to talk to anyways. I mean, for me,
Mm,
I've been very lucky to know a lot of like successful or interesting, established entrepreneurs or businessmen or artists and whatever. And we have all kinds of awesome conversations. And I just think, damn, there's not a podcast, not even Joe Rogan is talking to these people. Not even, I don't know, London Real, not even someone who I admire is having these really deep, interesting conversations that I would never have found anywhere else except through me and another person. And then so I'm like, okay, well then if I'm going to have these super interesting conversations with other people that are slowly changing my life, giving me a different perspective, making me feel or think in a way that makes my life more interesting and richer and deep. Well, then other people should get on this too, right? It would be quite selfish of me to just keep it all to myself, all this interest and insight and this connection.
And mine, you just reminded me because you were asking me about the most rewarding moment. And you actually know of this because I messaged you as soon as it happened. I actually wanted to use the platform as I told you, as a sort of to be as inclusive and as diverse as our identities are. So I actually interviewed a girl who was brought up from an orphanage and she escaped from her alcoholic abusive father when she was 14. And her entire story, while I was talking to her, was so much based on, fighting for basically fighting for her life, to secure that life. And she's still in the process of discovering herself. And she was so resilient. And I thought, this is a story that needs to be told. But when I first pitched it to our company, and I understand this because the cultural aspect that we're talking about, at first they were hesitant. They said, maybe it's too emotional. Maybe it doesn't feel right with the brand image that we're trying to create. And I understood their fear because we're launching into something that they haven't done before. And like I said, when you're trying to do something that you haven't done, fear creeps in. So I understood. And I actually thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to do the best I can to tell them why this story is worth sharing. But I'm going to make sure that I'm taking it back. Like I'm bringing my awareness. Like I'm not going to get emotional about this if this just doesn't get through. So I went in. I delivered what I prepared, like whole data about why this is important. This is the angle that we're taking. It's not the emotional aspect that's important. The storytelling part, and they loved it. They absolutely loved it.
Woo!
So, and not only did they love that story, but they loved all the other subsequent topics and the stories that I wanted to cover, like mental health, body positivity, and I think that up till now there would be more, but up till now that was probably the most rewarding moment for me, mine. That what I believe in, or like what you believe in, things that we believe in, actually is transpiring into something. I mean, that's one of the greatest. I mean, how can it be more rewarding than that? So,
Yeah, and even from a marketing point of view, I think everyone's sick of, I don't know, Gucci or whatever. Like everyone, right? Because that's what a luxury brand is, right? The luxury brand, like the nice watch or the handbag, and then like the $305,000 wallet or whatever have you. If you can
mm,
be a luxury brand that's promoting people telling real stories, then all of
yes.
a sudden the model in the 30-second YouTube ad or whatever, showing off some luxurious thing, that person becomes more real. If that model is also saying a story like, yeah, I used to be abused by my father and I ran away from another country, and now I work a successful career here, right? I think
Mhm.
not only is that giving maybe a more positive, more authentic message to the consumers or the audience or the market, but actually it'll make people be like, it's like, oh, that shit is real. Like that has more substance than, just some
Yes.
model that I don't know her story or whatever, or, some celebrity who's endorsing a product. But if I find out like, oh, this person is a successful career woman and she comes from really hard backgrounds, but she likes to, buy nice things for herself, right?
Mm,
Then, right? Then it's just like, oh, like how can anyone argue against that? Oh, because her
right.
past. Well, the present is that she's a successful career woman. So then look how far she's come. It adds more depth, and that's her personal brand, and then that will add to the authenticity of the luxury brand, and then people will appreciate that more. I personally think it's excellent marketing. Because I think everyone
Okay.
is trying to be the luxury brand. All the luxury brands are always trying to be luxury. But if a certain luxury brand tries to promote maybe a positive cultural influence as well, I think that would. I mean, again, I'm no marketing genius, but
Mm,
I would think that that would make people respect that brand more. They could, if they were to promote stories or some content, Vice style, right? Like here's a story you've never heard before, brought to you by this company. It's like, oh, like, and this person likes to wear this nice luxury bag or watch or what have you, right? So it's like, oh, like that person's like really successful and cool and is like so like humble and hardworking. Like I want to be like that person, so I'm gonna buy that watch
exactly.
subconsciously. I don't know.
Yeah. What I was going to add to that is that was exactly the kind of mantra or the the business um, motto that I had when I approached brand marketing. Is the brand isn't necessarily about like the quality of the product. The quality of the product should be given. But what I want to emphasize is that if it's a luxury brand, or whatever that luxury means, that isn't it more important that the person behind the brand is actually luxury? And by luxury, I don't mean like she can afford $3,000 shoes or bag, but that person, like the inner side of that person, is high class, is luxury. Like she's aware, she's went through a lot, she accepted her insecurity, or she's still in the process of accepting her insecurity. She's in the process of discovering herself. Like that's what I would call luxury, high class. So for me, when I was well, when I'm creating the brand story, the reason I'm doing her story is because this is a collection of luxury women life stories. And luxury women, as I'm not talking about expensive women, like expensive people. We're talking about people whose life was so rich, so rich, because it has stories that we want to listen, we want to hear, that we want to grow from, we want to model after. So that is the kind of first story series and the editorials that I want to launch.
Yeah, because the real gold is not in the necklace that she's wearing. It's actually in her heart because she has golden heart.
Exactly. The necklace. That's okay. Okay, we need this line like on the on the main banner. Like the necklace is only a physical manifestation of her inner being. It's just one of the physical manifestations, right? The necklace isn't the thing. It's like the necklace is worth it because she is wearing it and she is the kind of person that went through all this and whatnot. Yes, absolutely. That's why I feel like for me, marketing is not so much about models. It's about role models. Like I want to hire role models. I want to put role models on the face, not the models. And nothing against the models, but you get the point. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Sorry.
And I mean, the idea or the topic of money in itself in regards to like your attitude towards it and towards luxury goods is a whole nother topic. I mean, I often think that it doesn't matter how much money that I have. Sure, it'd be nice to have millions of dollars, and I do intend to get there, but it doesn't matter if I have like a nice shiny watch or like a luxury sports car or like a 3-story mansion with like marble countertops and whatnot. I mean, those things are all nice, and I have friends who maybe have those things, and I
Mm-hmm.
can just enjoy these things vicariously through them or with them. But it's not something that I need, and all of those things, all those you know things that make someone like high net worth doesn't matter at all. All the money and assets and nice cars and things like all those things aren't worth it at all. Like they're if you are a miserable person, like if you hate yourself or if you come from a very rich family, you never had to work a day in your life, you never had to struggle, then your struggle is that you don't know what struggle is. And then there's generations. I mean, there've always been spoiled rich kids throughout humanity's history, but like especially now with the world's market, even with COVID, just the level of wealth that's generated and like so many families with all this wealth, and a lot of parents aren't training their kids to how to handle this energy, this power,
Right.
the monetary power that they have, right? Because if you don't know how to handle money, if you don't like meditate and have principles and stick to your values or whatever, then it's just going to be like a drug. Like money is a powerful drug,
Yes,
and I
it
love
is.
money. I love this drug that is called money. I like
Same.
making it and I like spending it, but if you have too much of it and you're not prepared for it, then you become like these lottery winners who like they had like a decent life, they were hardworking, but like they made ends meet and they were living fulfilling life, but then they won like $100 million in the lottery and their life went to shit because they went through a divorce, and like all the people in their family started asking them for money, like second cousins, and then they made all these bad gambling decisions. They bought 3-story house and the sports car, and
Yeah,
then they end up in suicide, right? Whether you're a lottery winner or you come from a rich family, but like you're just used to it, so it doesn't mean anything to you. You have no context for appreciating the growth of that wealth because you didn't make it yourself. Um, then all of that is a curse, actually. Like luxury in this sense is a curse if you don't understand it, if you didn't earn it, isn't it? Right? Because and then it's shallow. It doesn't have the meaning, right? There's so many rich kids out there. They're on a 5-star vacation, 5-star resort, like 5-course special meals or whatever, and they're mad at their parents because oh mom, I wanted the iPhone X, but you only gave me an iPhone 8 plus with 64 gigabytes or whatever. And like my friends all have Aston Martins or whatever, but you just gave me a shitty Porsche. I don't know. I don't know cars very well, but like these kids, like they have all this, their families have all this wealth, but they don't have maybe a proper connection with their parents, and they
Mhm.
don't have an appreciation for life. And it's honestly, it's not even their fault, right? So for me, like luxury, I will entertain it, or I will like appreciate it insofar as that it was earned, right? Because that gives the
Absolutely.
satisfaction to life. All my life, like all the good things that I enjoy now, I have to thank all the struggles that I went through.
Hmm.
It makes me a more realer person. It makes me like able to connect with humanity more.
And positive always attracts positive. Like wealth attracts wealth. So money, and we talked about some cases of where like um, wealth that came without effort has destroyed some people. But I'm sure, Mime, you've talked to CEOs and entrepreneurs who worked hard and became successful. And when we look at them, what we realize is that they constantly bring in more wealth and more opportunities because they are such positive and people who overcame their own struggles. Like they become more successful and more successful each year because of that. So, and when you are that kind of person, not only are you wealthy because of what you attract, but those people become now a channel to use that wealth for the betterment of other people. Like I know a lot of like millionaires who fund a big portion of their earnings to social causes and do a lot of great things. And I look at them and say, that's real luxury. That's real wealth. The trickle down and how they keep promoting themselves to become better. Like they never stop because they're constantly working on themselves and growing themselves, even if they are millionaires and billionaires. So it's that you have to get into that positive cycle. It keeps attracting what you want to manifest. And I hope that this Mime Time, Chess Cafe, and the editorial all become sort of the platform for attracting those like minds, or at least helping them nurture those minds.
Hell yeah,
Mhm.
hell
We're
yeah.
definitely we're definitely on the process of doing it. Definitely on the process of doing
That's the real flex. Like actually, I mean, people can be, what's the word, buffoon. I mean, people can be swayed and they can impress, like, oh, that person has a nice car, and
it. Mhm.
like, oh, that person has a nice house or whatever. And I mean, that's all fine and good. But if such a person is like using the money for some charitable cause, like for a good cause or whatever, I think there are enough rich people who are like flexing whatever the private jets, but to actually use that money instead of on a private jet, or in tandem with a private jet, you're like donating to a good cause, then I think that's the real flex. That's,
Oh my God! Yes,
yeah.
yes.
If you're like, because I judge people all the time, and just like you're just doing this, you're just having a nice house or whatever because you want people to give you validation because you're rich. Well, good job, it worked. I here have my validation. I respect you more, and I think it's cool that you have nice things. Yeah,
Mhm.
but if someone uses that money for like a good cause and is creating a positive impact, like building a school, right, in some third world country, some developing country,
Mhm.
then I will have more respect for that person. So, and
Exactly.
that respect will be more authentic. It'll be more human. It won't be a superficial thing as like just having a nice thing, but actually doing a nice thing instead of having nice things, doing nice things for other people with your wealth and your assets. Then you know what happens, you self-obsessed ego person that you are with assets, then you'll reward your ego. You'll be able to tell yourself that you are a good person because you're helping other people and you're giving a gift to humanity. So if
Yeah.
you're gonna, I mean, if you're gonna have, if you, we all have our egos at the end of the day, face it, right? After enlightenment, the laundry. Like for a moment, I can have an out of body experience and I can forget who I am, and but then the laundry, like I still live with my ego and my mind and my past, complex and my insecurities or whatever, my fear and my anger and hatred and my, all the dark sides. If you're gonna have an ego and if you want to show off your wealth, then why don't people, I mean, who am I, right? Like I'm nobody, but people, if you're rich, do whatever you want with your own money. It's your own money. But
Yeah. We can't
if
tell
you
you
want
what
the
to do.
ego validation, then you could do that, and then people respect you even more, or it'll be a real respect, right? And then you can
Mhm.
feel happier about yourself as a person. You can feed your ego that way, like, oh, I'm a good person. I know we got off on tangent there, but I mean, I think that's luxury, like being
I think,
a philanthropist, Bill Gates level shit.
and that's what I intend to do with my life as well. Yeah, I want to be luxury. I want to be high class in that way. So,
Yeah, and so we didn't think that we could ever aspire to be high class when we were kids. I never thought that I could aspire to be like greater than what I was.
mm,
Um, I like to, but not, then so it's just weird. Like when I was a kid, I thought I would never be, how do I say, I would never be proper. Like I was just, I wore
mm,
baggy clothes and I didn't care about my appearance and I didn't care about how I talked to people in a, uh, in a, in a very like, I was socially awkward kind of way. And then so
mm,
I thought I could never be like a people's person. But then I became a club promoter. I met hundreds and hundreds of people. I helped with my partner. We did a 2,000 person party for New Year's Eve going into 2020 at a, like a luxury hotel at Soul Dragon
mm,
City in Yongsan. Right.
mm,
So we had like the most epic New Year's Eve party ever. Right. So I never thought that I could be a part of something like that when I was a kid. Like that's my version of being high class, wearing a bow
mm.
tie and entertaining folks and like showing people a good time.
For me, I think it wasn't so much that I didn't think I could be, quote unquote high class or luxury, but I I didn't know. I didn't have a definition of what it meant to be high class or luxury. I knew I wanted to be, you know, I wanted to live a life with a purpose of to what Oprah would say, fulfilling my truest and highest expression of myself. I just didn't know what that meant. Like I didn't have a definition of what that would entail. Yes, I want to be great. Yes, I want to do a lot of things. Yes, I want to do charity. But through what and for what? And now, for me now, I've discovered in this entire podcast and just in my own life in general, I've made my own definition of what high class or luxury Francesca would look like. And that would not have come if I hadn't been thrown into a lot of ditches that I had to crawl out of.
Yeah,
Let's put it that way.
those cheeky ditches.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because no one knows actually what high class is actually, or maybe what
Oh,
being great means. Yeah, but that's a great point. You have to find a kind of define that. You have to define purpose of your own life because no one's gonna.
your
It's like, can I eat your lunch for you? Can I go to the bathroom for you? Like, oh, Cheska, you need to use the restroom. Hold on, let me just go and take care of that for you, so you don't have to go use the restroom. Right? Can I shower for you, Cheska? You're I think you need a shower, so I'm gonna go to shower and shower instead of you. Right? These basic bodily functions, right? The basically things we do day in and day out. No one can do that for you, but you, right? Like,
Mhm.
no one can eat for you. No one can go to the bathroom for you.
Yeah.
And I
I
would
wish.
extrapolate that. Yeah,
I
right.
wish.
Because then it could save us all about time. You could hire, you could
Yeah.
export, you could export going to the bathroom to perhaps a developing country that really needs the industry and the
I
work.
know. I know. Like, I
We
could
would
do it
do that.
for them. I would love to do it for them. I would love to eat for them. I would love to sleep for them. I would love to put nutrients into my body for them. But
Yeah, I mean, it would be great for everyone because yeah, then you could enjoy all those bodily sensations and eat for other people. But all right, we're going too far for this mental experiment. But what I'm trying to say is that I would extrapolate all the way to your individual life purpose, right? No one can tell you what it is. And if they do tell you and it matches, then it was something you would have figured out anyways, arguably.
hmm hmm hmm
And especially in this day and age, going back to what you said about like how our grandparents' generation, they went through a lot and how much times have changed. This is another great topic that would take a lot of time, but the challenges that men and women face in this day and
hmm
age in terms of say dating or finding a
Oh my
job
God.
or a career, right? You're talked about complexity, right? This is huge because our parents and our parents' generation, most of them, they just found their partner or their career path through their immediate family or neighborhood,
Right.
right?
Right.
Right?
Right.
Like we like there's one couple I know. They ran a cafe. It was one of my favorite cafes in the neighborhood, and they said they've known each other since middle school, right? And they're a great, sweet couple, and they work together very well, managing the cafe and whatnot. And they're a wonderful couple. I call them uncle and auntie, right? Emo and emo boo. And when I, talking to them, I realized, maybe they might have wondered throughout their life, like, oh, what if I dated someone else, right? What if I had more opportunity to meet different people or whatever? I think maybe the older generation has some curiosity about that. Like maybe my parents did, right? Sometimes I talk with my mom, like, mom, like, didn't you ever wish like you could have dated other guys or whatever instead of dad? But that's another topic. What I'm saying is like their local tribe, already made the decision for them, right? Or the circumstances. Like what are your father's a smith, a locksmith, or then you're going to be a locksmith. Your father's a baker, then you're going to be a baker. That's what everyone does. They just do what their parents do. So much so that like that's what names the like Smith, right? John Smith,
Yeah,
right? That
exactly.
family name is
Correct.
because everyone in that family was a smith hundreds of years ago, whatever. They all did iron or metalwork, you know.
Mhm.
So like that's so much a part of our like our family identity into the part of their name, like your occupation. So now we have, well, now John Smith doesn't have to be a Smith. He can be John influencer, John Instagrammer, or John dropshipper, right? And I'm not encouraging that anyone necessarily goes into those things, but we have all this, like I said, Tinder or any other given online dating service. We have like free travel, not so much with COVID, but still possible. It's still way
Mhm.
more than our ancestors ever had.
Oh,
So there, with all the
absolutely.
choice, right? It's the illusion of choice because we can choose so much. Then what happens is we don't know what to do. We don't. Oh, is this the
Exactly.
best? What should I be? Should I be an artist? Oh, should I be a painter? Do I want to be a doctor? Like, I don't know. Like, you're like, for hundreds of years, we never had this problem. We of like what job or what your career path is in life, or who you're going to date and eventually marry and have kids with. So I would say I much prefer our problems to this day
Mhm.
because this is way better
Same.
than struggling like the way I mean, like the older generation, they had to go through a war and Japanese occupation and all this crazy shit and trauma and pain that I couldn't even begin to imagine. So, but
Mhm.
at least what they had, a lot of them, is they just, because of the circumstances, they just found someone and that they became a life partner with, and they just found an occupation, right? You get in where you fit in. So at the time they got in where they
Mhm.
fit in, but now we have all this choice, right? So I would argue that yeah, we have better problems. No, there will never be a perfect utopian society, but this version, this reality, these problems are always better. I think that's the great thing about humanity and all the societies is that we make better problems. Our problems are not the problems of the past; they're better problems, but they're still problems and they're complex problems. And so, what one thing I want to share with you and the listeners is that don't be too hard on yourself because your parents and your grandparents didn't have to deal with the complexity of choices that you have with the
Exactly.
freedom of travel, and all the options that you have. Like we're blessed for sure, we're blessed, but at the same time, your parents and your grandparents maybe wouldn't do better if they were in your shoes because they would be
I
you.
absolutely
They
agree.
didn't have to deal with it. Yeah.
Or
So
at
we
least
are
they would,
pioneers.
we are, and they would not understand any of the things, or at least most of the things that we're going through. And that's not on them as much as it's not on us, because it's just a completely different environment, completely different situation that we are and they were each born in. So we can't blame them for not understanding us, and they can't blame us for not doing the things that they saw at work. So that's a different level of understanding that we need to come to in order to resolve this more peacefully. But that's more on the family side. But yeah, this generation that we're living in, and I only focused on women because the jewelry line is mostly for women, but it's not just women. Men, I'm sure, and what based on what the limited knowledge that I have, are pretty much going through the same kind of vision and the struggles. I'm confident. So it's one of those times where it requires us to be more awakened and more aware. Like it's even more empirical. Like it's imminent that we find ourselves quickly. We meditate more. We clear all these noise and fog because there's just so much. There's so much noise, Maya. There's so much, you know, fog in a way. And it almost makes us blind to find the right choice. So I think, and I feel that too, you know, as someone living in this generation, as a woman. Um, and that's one of the things that we need to keep focusing on instead of distracting ourselves from all the flashy stuff and the noise. Like what is real for me, you know, to find myself and find out what works for me.
I actually wanted to ask you, what challenges do women face in this day and age? Which is a very broad question, but you kind of went into that with like the, like complexity and, like different conflicting messages we get from like marketing and social values and
Hmm.
whatnot. So, I mean, for me, like I have my struggles as a guy. I've trying to find my path and just getting to where I am. Like it's been a struggle, but I can't imagine what it's like for the average woman, like the average American woman,
Hmm.
or particularly the average Korean woman, because it's such a tough society, such a
Yeah.
tough competitive society, and there's all these expectations. I mean, I think for a guy, I think it's a bit more. I think it's a bit easier because it's like, okay, you're a guy, you have to get a job, and you have to make a lot of money, and so you have to have, like that, just to roughly put it that way. But I think for women in this day and age, with modernization and liberalization, and women like have to do everything right because they still want to be the mom, the wife, the stay-at-home mom,
Yeah.
but then they also should be a career woman. So then your
Yeah.
attention and your force is divided among these things, and then so you have half of society saying you should be like, it's good to be traditional and to be like a
Right.
stay-at-home wife,
Right.
and
Right. Right.
be in the, like, to greet your husband, like, oh yobo 고생하셨어, well, and like, feed him a meal and whatever, and take care of the kids, right? There's that appeal and that marketing and the traditional values, but then there's a new capitalism. There's which is just all recent. It's like not even 100 years old. This way of thinking, like, oh, it's like, oh, you're an adult man or woman, then you should strive to make money and have a big financial, like a successful, profitable career. So I think for women, it's even, um, I can't imagine, right? Especially with body issues and all the marketing, plastic surgery. I mean, we can get into that another time.
Yeah.
But I'm just
Oh
like,
my
I
God.
can't imagine. It's like, oh my god, especially this society. I mean, I think America, I mean, all societies have this issue, but Korean especially, with the superficiality, with appearance on, with the emphasis on appearance, which has its good and its
Mhm.
bad things. But I just can't imagine being a woman growing up in this society. I think it would be like so difficult.
I just I I appreciate you for acknowledging it. I really do because I know, especially coming
It's
from.
ridiculous. I'm glad I'm not a woman. I don't know if maybe that's not a good thing to say, but I'm glad I'm not a woman in the society. And I'm trying to extract as much male privilege as I possibly can to elevate all humanity. So I'm on your side, women. Don't judge me too hard.
No, but that it. I think it kind of goes along with the same way. The more struggles you have, the more reward you will be able to get. So I think being a woman is should be one of the most powerful and beautiful celebration of life because as a woman you actually have so much power. Like I mean, we have power to give birth. We have power to create life. Like how much more phenomenal can you get than that, right? But at the same time, a lot of the power and the identity that you can have as female in society has been crushed or has been fogged by all these other stuff that you just mentioned, whether it be about appearance, like plastic surgery, you have to fix yourself a certain way in order to fit in the conformity of looking pretty, or you have to shed your weight a certain way or shape your body a certain way. You have to fit into this outfit. And that's just appearance. I just listed like four just in terms of appearance. And as you age, like going from 20s to 30s, 40s, you have all these new struggles that come up. Oh, I need to get a job in this patriarchal society. Oh, I need to get married because my parents want me to have a family. Oh, I need to have kids. And then boom, you have kids. Oh, what about my career? Well, I still want to be a mom. Like you said, I want to be a housewife. I want to have my job. I still want to be a good mom. And then you have this mom guilt when you're working woman, right? Like, why aren't you showing up to your kids' playtime? Or why aren't you dropping your kids off at the, my mom had it, why aren't you dropping your kids off at the hagwon at the right time? And then when the kids grow up and they leave the nest, quote unquote, leave the nest, that's why they have so many post depression, huge depression at 40s and 50s, because now they have nothing to anchor them. All their life, they've lived up to the society's expectation, their parents' expectation, or to fulfill the expectation or the needs of the children. And after everything has been stripped off, they're left with nothing. And it's not their fault. Like I would be in that situation too if I were living that life, like constantly trying to check the boxes, right? So, like you said, it, and I think a lot of women and girls need to know about this going into their life, because whether it's women or a man, life is beautiful, life is incredible. But we don't know how to take advantage of that wisely at the moment, I think. And the media and the marketing, I don't think they're doing a very great job at the moment. So this messages about, oh, in order to have a happy life, you need a boyfriend by your side. In order to have a fulfilled life, you need a hubby on your side. You know, in order to feel satisfied, like sign up for a diet program that will help you lose weight. And look, she's smiling, so you will be happy too. Like, you know, that's not what I do.
And people aren't idiots, but they are at the same time. But I mean, and I'm talking about myself, like, because like you'll look at that ad and like I could look at an ad of like a dude who's super ripped and he got 6-pack abs, and it's just like, do this diet program, come to this gym, buy this supplements, right? And I know consciously, I don't need to look like that, or to like this is just silly marketing. You know, it's I can brush it off as like, you know, puerile or whatever. But then there's a part of me that's just like, oh, I know people do like this. You know, people do have this
I know,
expectation. People do
I
have this
know.
standard. So subconsciously, it gets to you no matter what. And so I can be all, oh,
Yeah,
I'm all enlightened and I'm above all this
yeah,
superficial bullshit because I am a cultured Western individualist, you know, and I'm able to completely just see people for who they are 100% of the time and never judge them on appearances. No, no, like I'm still a human and I want to know what other people are thinking because that's how we evolved,
absolutely,
right? I want to know what the
absolutely.
expectations are for beauty and for strength and whatever are. So like it gets to me too. I just think, oh man, that must be so hard for a lot of women as well.
And I
So
and I
that's
and
why
I
it's
think
important to get into media marketing, folk. Yeah, like if you want to
yeah,
change the world, then like get into the industry and like add your own flair to it, and like add more substance and values to it that are real and
yeah.
not so superficial.
And I thank you, Mai, for the confession that you made about how you feel when you see these things, because and I think it works for me and for everyone else. And I think this is the importance to have variety and diversity, because I'm not saying that the fit women and the fit men on the cover of the gym is wrong. I mean, they look great, they look amazing, they're great, and you know, the luxury items they advertise, that's all fantastic. But why are we not having as much advertisement or like media marketing for other values or other looks or other types of living? You know, why are we so heavily focused on just like hammering? Like, I feel like it's being hammered, like hammer that into your consciousness and unconsciousness that this is how you should look or this is the only way that it works. Can I tell you a little anecdote when I first came to Korea Mine? Do you know 신사역, the Samos Online, the
Oh
line
my
through?
God, there's advertisements everywhere. Shinsa Station.
I swear to God, because I have faith. I swear to God, when I first came to Korea about 4 years ago, and I wasn't even like young, like, you know, 4 years ago, and I got off the subway because I had to go somewhere, and line three, maybe it was Appu line because I had to like transfer. So there's this like really long hallway that you have to walk to get to the other line. And this is
Hmm.
how vivid it was. 4 years ago, I still remember it. Like a long corridor. And in that hallway, on both walls, from the beginning to the end, there were advertisements of plastic surgery. Like these girls that look that certain way, like just staring at me like that because they're staring out into the wall. And I felt halfway through, I actually got dizzy. Like I really got dizzy, and I was a little
Damn.
bit scared. I was scared, and I said, and I started walking really fast, and I wasn't like looking at the walls next to me. And I just got out of there, and I got out, and I thought, oh, that was really weird. Like I was having a very mild like panic attack. And looking back, and this is where the cultural diversity kind of comes in. Looking back, I think it was because I wasn't so used to how they looked, and all of them at the same time just like looking at me. Does it make sense? It was like all the same look, similar looking girls just staring down at me, and they didn't look quote unquote human to me, and that scared me. And that just shows how they're hammering in this image to you in your unconsciousness and your conscious. And if you live in that society when you're surrounded by these conformed images, and then you go home and look at yourself in the mirror, how ugly or absurd would you look, right? And how could you not sign up for that gym membership or that plastic surgery appointment next week? It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And while I'm not against plastic surgery because it's your choice, it's people's choices, I just think if you're gonna have one wall full of those women, then we should have one wall full of the other women or other many types of women. And I think that's that for me, that is a healthy society. Right now, I'm not sure if we live in a very healthy society. Yeah. So that's what it's like to be women, folks.
Yeah, I've seen all those advertisements around Shinsa Station and Apgujeong Station, and I every time I see them, like, damn. And then I see all these other women around me, like walking by. I'm like, they're seeing this shit too, right? I'm just like, I can't imagine what goes through their minds when they see this shit, and it blows my mind. You're like, you had like like an anxiety attack seeing all
I
those
did.
advertisements. That's trippy as fuck.
Oh, it was so scary, and it was. I mean, not just like women. We obviously would get affected more because they are women. But if you think about it, men watch that too, right? Men see the
Yep.
ads too, and the men are going to think, "Oh, that's how normal girls should look like." "Quote unquote," I use the quotation. Normal girls should look like. Well, that's what a pretty girl should look like, and that is shaping their unconsciousness and the consciousness about picking their partners and picking their mate. So it's like a vicious cycle that just keeps going around. If you
Oh,
think
it's really it's really crazy.
it is, and because if men start to think that that's quote again air quote normal or beautiful, then male are going to try to look for those girls, right? Those girls, and now the female population would have to mold themselves into looking like that because that's what they think the society wants. So it's like that one ad, or not one, but those one image or one type of image has now completely shaped the society about what we think is normal. And this happens, I think, every second of our life because that ad is still there. There are still bumper ads on buses. It's on TV, K-pop. So it it's I think it's very unhealthy society that we live in.
I
For
mean, how
women.
could it not be, right? Because if and it works, right? The marketing works because the girls that you
Oh,
see in the advertisements, you do see girls who actually look like that, right? Around, like, I mean, I've been around those neighborhoods. I've met people who look like that, and I'm not knocking on them at all. I
we're
just
not.
think that.
Yeah, yeah,
mm,
exactly. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but sorry, continue. Yeah.
No, that's fine. I'm just not knocking on them at all. I don't judge them. I mean, a part of me judges them, but a part of me just like kind of assumes that, like, oh, you must have had. I mean, this is just totally an assumption, but the guess would be like, oh, your parents didn't love you enough, or you just weren't taught like more substantial human values that are like affirming to who you look like, and like yourself. You didn't grow up with self acceptance, just like I didn't. So I can understand that, right? I understand, like, because I had body image issues like my whole life. I still do,
Hmm.
and I still struggle with it. So I can judge. I'll judge people insofar as like I think maybe they're making a decision they'll regret later. But
Mm.
I can understand because I might also make that decision if I were them. I think, you know, if we like, it's not a healthy society. It's not a mentally healthy society. We don't talk about mental issues, and we're not focused on raising like the self esteem, like the mental health of the people, because it's very taboo to talk about like mental issues or whatever. But
Hmm.
we're all trauma victims. Like our parents' generation, you know, if they were born in the war or after the war or before the war, I mean, they're all survivors of war and abuse, like abuse from society, from superiors, from you know the war, from I don't know the Japanese, right? Like there's all this oppression that goes from, and this is like the Korean Han thing, right? And the like from the higher ups, the hierarchy, like the pain just gets transferred. The Han, it just goes down, and then to the right the boss. The boy grows up, is abused viciously by his alcoholic father or whatever, and his abusive, manipulative mom, and then maybe he becomes like a successful entrepreneur. Maybe he starts a successful business. He becomes like head of this company, but then he's just like he doesn't love himself, so he like you know is very like mean and harsh, and he carries that pain and he transfers it to his lower level managers and then to his employees, and then
Exactly.
those management, they go home to their wives and they beat their wives, and then they beat their kids, they yell at their wives, like saying like this is not how we do it, like you need to be this way, you need to be better, right? So then, and then kids at school, right? Sundays, like, you know, upperclassmen, they're always being like, it's just an endless cycle of trauma that's transferred to the next generation. And so we don't
Yeah.
talk about this in a healthy way to understand it, to come to terms with it, to accept it for what it
Absolutely.
is. And then,
Absolutely.
and then, and then have like forgiveness and love to all the people who suffer, right? And understand like it's nothing personal. It's just you were at the wrong place at the wrong time. And, you
Hmm.
know, it most likely wasn't
Hmm.
your fault, blah, blah, blah. And so if we had that society, then maybe these plastic surgery clinics wouldn't be making so much money, because we'd have a
Yeah.
society full of men and women who just love themselves enough that they know like that's not something they're interested in.
Exactly. And I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was, even someone like you, mine, who has overcame a lot of your own struggles, and you've accomplished, and you're finding yourself, and I do too. You still have body image issues. I still have issues about the things that are unresolved. But if you think about it, if we don't create certain changes in society, no matter how hard we work to meditate and manifest, like you said, when we get ourselves into the car and we drive, and all we see is these images, they're going to have negative effect on the effort that we're making as well, right? So not only do we need to work internally on ourselves, because we need that shield and the armor, but as responsible citizens of this global society, I think whatever work we do, like whether it be in media, it doesn't even have to be in media marketing. In anything that you do, we really should be the ambassadors and promoters of these values that we believe in, just really strongly. You know, to say that they're not bad, but to say that's not the only answer.
Indeed. Yeah. And I mean, plastic surgery. Yeah. That's a whole nother topic, right? I mean, it's your body, do what you want.
Yeah, that's what I meant. People give messages about, oh, it's your body, do whatever you want with it. You're free, you're independent. And then there's a message called love yourself. If post by the most beautiful girl in the world. And then you're like, oh, of course you can love yourself because you look like that. Or like, oh, I in order to love myself, I should look as good as that.
Yeah. Or
So
if you are born naturally beautiful, then your whole life is different, because like the everyone treats you, I mean, guys treat you a lot better, right? And you know, you might become daddy's little spoiled princess, right? If it is not the ideal situation, then like you won't appreciate certain things in life, and you might not even love yourself, because you'll always be wondering if people love you for who you are or just because of your looks, that kind of thing,
mhm,
right? And so like, you know, what if I mean, imagine being a woman who gets plastic surgery and then they meet someone who's naturally beautiful and then resenting them for being naturally beautiful, whereas they had to like
Yeah.
have a surgical operation. But then that person who's naturally beautiful says like she's always like distrusting of people because she doesn't know if people really like her for who she is, but because of her appearance only. And then the person who has plastic surgery is like, why did I even get plastic surgery? I'm sure these conversations have happened, right? They must be like, oh, why did I even like even naturally beautiful women like question themselves and have insecurities. Huh?
Mm, absolutely.
You can't
Absolutely.
win.
It,
You can't win.
you can't win. Exactly. And that's why it always goes back to fixing the outer. It's like a bandage. As soon as you rip the bandage, the wound is still there. Unless you take care of that, it's just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. It's still gonna hurt whenever you press on it. And right now, everybody wants the quick fix. Everybody thinks, if I get that nose lift, if I get the uh, double eyelids, if I get that boyfriend, if I get that guy, if I get that girl, if I get that job, my life would be perfect. So I would be happier.
Yeah. And you can get those things, and I know people who have gotten those things. They got that job, and they
Exactly.
got that money, they got that deal, they got that girl or guy, and they got all the superficial things and the luxury goods and the golden necklaces, but they're dead inside. Like there's like a lot of the Korean rich, right? These guys who are driving like Lamborghinis around, like some of them they're miserable, right? Like do you think, because they don't know what like happiness means to them. They just do what their society or their family or their group of friends do, but they don't really know that maybe no one even told them to even consider, hey man, what are your values? What matters to you in life? Like be a more like kind person, like respect people. You don't know what they're going through. They never had to struggle, so they don't know. Some of these kids, right, they probably never knew how to struggle, so like they don't have that appreciation, and it's not even their fault and that they're miserable. And and so before you get the nice things and before you consider getting the nip tuck and the eyelid surgery and all the trappings of success or whatever society says is success, I would just encourage anyone listening to perhaps consider what the inner value of your soul and your mind are, like your psychology, and to know what you really want out of life, what really matters to you, and not just what society says. Right. And it might be
Yeah.
those things. And just like, if that's what makes you happy, then I mean, go for it. I'm not judging you. I'm not
Yes,
going to
please.
stop you.
Yeah,
But like
absolutely.
only after, yeah, only after you really know, like, is what you really want. Otherwise, you're just going to
Mm.
have big regrets later on for how you spent your time and your money and your body and all that. Wouldn't it be better to have nice things and do nice things after you figured out who you are? I mean, we'll never figure out completely who we are, but if you have focus on being a good person in your journey to find yourself and accepting who you are, then your life will be much more richly rewarding and you won't need to have nice things. But if you do have nice things, then it's
It's even
even
better.
better if you
Yeah.
have nice
It's a
values.
plus. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think one of the great things about life, and the reason mine, you two, and we work so hard, is because we do appreciate the rewards that come from it. Come on, we wouldn't work this hard if there was no reward attached to it, right? But the reward, I want to live a life that where I can fully, like, so richly enjoy those rewards because I know how earnestly and how genuinely and how hard I worked for them. And they're just tastier, much richer, and just so much more valuable in that way. I think that's the only way that you can add value to something, not the monetary, but how much and how earnestly and how genuinely you worked for it. That's the only way. And that should be the driving force for how you want to give back to the world and how you want to reward yourself. Uh,
Yeah, exactly. Because at the end of the day, you have to live with yourself. You have to look at yourself in the mirror,
yeah, for the
until
rest of your life.
you die. Yeah, until you die. And so it's like you want to be real with yourself. Like, what's the best long term investment? It's like, well, knowing what I really want and what really matters to me. Yeah. And Jessica, is there you kind of did it in the beginning, but I just want to say it again because I asked my guest this. Like, what would you want to say to those who are feeling lost about their identity, right? Whether they're a man or a woman, if they're not sure who they are, and they're being bombarded with all these messages that might not be conducive to their self-esteem. If they're wondering if they're Korean or Chinese or Canadian or French, well, what would you like to say to them? To your 9-year-old
I
self in New Zealand.
Oh my god. Well, okay, maybe not my 9-year-old because my 9-year-old was way too young to be confused. But if I could tell my college self, then because that's when I was incredibly confused and depressed, um, I would say, Francesca, keep asking those questions. It's okay to be confused. You have to be confused in order to find the answer. So keep asking, keep digging, keep inquiring, and surround yourself with the people that love you or could love you. But that's only secondary. You have to keep asking those questions that make you uncomfortable, that make you confused. And in the end, you will find the answer. You will. That's And it's not because I say it, it's what the philosophers have said, it's what all the great minds have said over the years, thousands of years. Ask yourself the questions and you shall find. And I did not know what that meant. But once I did, that's all I'm doing these days. Keep asking to me.
Keep asking yourself the question, guys, like the questions that matter to you. Like, yeah, who am I? I still ask this. And like, that's okay. It's a process, it's a journey. I might not even get that answer, but the fact of the process of even asking, I feel brings me higher and adds
Yes,
more
yes.
richness to life.
And you said it so well. It's not even like asking the question doesn't mean you're trying to find the answer. Asking the question itself, the process, like stimulate your brain, your body, your spirituality, your mentality, whatever, like your entire being into a direction. And that shift in direction is what enables you to get to where you want to be. It's not about finding the answer because there's no answer. There's no answer, like one answer for everyone. It's just that question helps you to shift your direction into the path that you want to be. Mm-hmm. That's great. Thanks,
That's
Mike.
dope. Yeah, thank you for coming out today and for all the wonderful things you said. If
Oh, my pleasure.
if people want to follow you or connect with you in your journey and the things that you do, how should they do it?
I think they can check my Instagram, but it's not very active. But my Instagram is still there. And also, they can they can use to Cheska, literally my name, Chespeafe. And they can also just contact me via Instagram if they have any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Cheska, for coming on today. We didn't even get to talk about like the awesome content on Cheska actually, like
I
the interviews
know.
ad. Like there was so much good stuff there. But next time. And thank you so much, Mime Timers, for tuning in today. I hope you got a lot out of this. And if you enjoyed the episode or know a friend who would get something out of the things that Cheska and I talked about, whether it's about like loving yourself, finding yourself, coming to acceptance with who you are, working in media marketing or luxury brands, and like having nice things, doing nice things, all these interesting things we talked about, then please share it with a friend. Please share it with someone who you think who would get a lot out of it. And if there's anything that you enjoyed as well, please let us know. I'd really appreciate some feedback. And that's all, like I said, like 10 minutes ago. That's all the time we have for today, folks. So thanks for tuning in. And yep, and we'll see you next time. Mime time. Oh.